Happy Monday morning. I'm your host, Chris Lee at Southeastern 16, here to start you off as we are into February with power rankings. We are near the halfway point of the conference season. Boy, this was fun to sort out. Or maybe not. It was stressful to sort out. You've got teams that one day look like they can beat anybody and everybody, and the next time out look like they can't beat the three of us on your screen. How do we sort that out? Boy, there were varying opinions of this. We will tally the votes. We will give them to you, and we will let you see what we came up with. And Blake's already got something.
No, I'm just going to say this. I don't think there were varying degrees of opinion this week. I think we were as close as we've ever been, Max, and we can talk about it when we go through the numbers. But am I wrong on that? Like, I think our numbers were pretty much right there, except for maybe like two or three teams.
Yeah, there's like two or three that we debate, but we had a unanimous top six.
Yeah, top six unanimous. So that's never happened.
Yeah,
so,
it's never happened.
Yeah. So
you know what has happened almost every stream for the past 4 weeks now? Mr. Zach Dixon is in the house. Fellas, right back at you, Zach. Thanks for joining us on this fine Monday morning. Are we ready to get right in?
Let's go. Let's have it.
Number 16, for the first time in a few weeks, LSU is at 16. They have definitely felt the injuries. They have now lost 7 of their last 8 games, with that lone win being at home 3 weeks ago against Arkansas. LSU has dropped now 4 in a row, all to good teams, A&M, Alabama, Auburn, and Texas. However, this is a good league. You got to win games. LSU down here at the bottom.
Well, you don't necessarily have to win games if you're South Carolina, because you're up to 15 now in our power rankings.
That is also true. But
remember, I did have Arkansas on my individual vote as last week, so that's a good sign for LSU, because that means we're going to go win a big road game here soon. Look, this is kind of to the point now where, yes, you lose games, but it's also how you lose games. And to win or lose by 31 on your home court against Texas and give up, 61 in the second half, whatever the number was, that will move you down a little bit in the rankings. And so even though South Carolina, who we know is going to be number 15, we can go ahead and pull it up on the screen, even though we know that South Carolina doesn't have a win, they've simply been a bit more competitive these days when it comes to recency, I guess. And had LSU lost that game against Texas by 10 or something, I don't think they'd be at 16. I think they'd be at 15. But a couple of us decided it was worth the swap. So,
yeah, moving along, I just don't know how much more we can say about these teams. Do they value a bunch of close losses, or the team that actually won one in the league, although it's been a minute? Let's get to 14, Max.
Well, hold on. Before just quickly, because I think we still need to stick on South Carolina for 1 second here, because I think we need to update the tally. In South Carolina's last 4 home games, we said this on Saturday night, but if you weren't watching on Saturday night, you don't know this, maybe. 3-point loss to Auburn, 1-point loss to Florida, overtime loss to Mississippi State, 4-point loss to Texas A&M. So that's the updated tally for South Carolina. And it keeps moving them up in KenPom. They are number 77 in KenPom despite being 0-9 in the league. Any other 0-9 team in the SEC in history in any other year, I promise you right now, would be in the 150s or lower. South Carolina is in the top 80 at 0-9 in the league. Nuts.
Yeah. 4 games ago, when going into that Florida game, South Carolina was 84th. They have, game by game, risen in the analytics over the past 4 games. You have a 1-point loss against Florida, overtime against Mississippi State, close game. So if it came down to it, neutral court, South Carolina against LSU today, they're playing today, I'm picking South Carolina to win that game. But
me too.
Moving on.
The ACC has 18 teams now? Pop quiz. How many of them are ranked ahead of South Carolina in KenPom?
Not sure.
I mean, I think we brought it up before. Like we said, there were 7, I think, sub 100 teams in the ACC, or not even 100, maybe like higher than that. So I'm going to say probably. I mean, there's probably only 5 or 6, to be honest with you, the more I think about it. So
8. 8 is your answer.
Yeah, well.
And the Gamecocks actually are 2-0 against the ACC. 3-0, excuse me. They beat Virginia Tech, Boston College, and Clemson.
I mean, the SEC is a gazillion and 1 or 2 against the ACC this year. So, but hey, we don't want to talk about Louisville's loss on here. I don't want anybody upset that Louisville lost to Georgia Tech. But we'll continue on with that.
We need to ship South Carolina to the ACC just for the rest of the season so they can get some wins.
No. Disagree.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm trying to be nice, guys. Come on.
You're trying to send Father Mike Paris out of the league. You're trying to get him fired. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Troublemakers.
Come on, man.
Number 14,
all right.
We have the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia drops a tough one, 90-69 at Alabama. That is now 5 losses in their last 6 games. They did, however, pick up a Tuesday win at home against South Carolina, who had been giving a lot of people trouble. Georgia didn't let South Carolina lead for a single second of that game. However, that is their only win in the past 3 weeks. So Georgia here down at 14.
Yeah, I mean, I said weeks ago I just was concerned about this team. I just don't think they're going to be able to score enough points to beat a lot of teams right now. And again, we can add to the tally there too, 51 points, 56, 65, 59, 69. That's their road performances this year in terms of the scoring output. So it's just, I think that's the problem. And they're a pretty good defensive team. But it's just, I think the scoring problems are going to give them fits the rest of the season, and that's why we played the game on Saturday night. They're 3-6 in the SEC. Find me 5 more wins on the schedule for Georgia, because I think that's what it takes for them to get into the NCAA tournament. And right now, it's really hard to find those 5. So they got to win against LSU on Wednesday. They really probably feel like they got to beat Mississippi State on Saturday too, because elsewhere, I think the wins are going to be hard to come by just given their offensive issues.
Yeah, you know what else is a problem? Georgia's played the number 2 strength of schedule in the league, according to Ken Pom.
Yeah, we said that going into the season. They've got a brutal schedule for being the youngest team in the league. And while we were kind of banking on that defense, even the defense after games against Florida and Alabama, the defense, which was, I believe, second in the league in SEC play coming into the week, drops back to 8th. So now they're about middle of the pack there. That hasn't been holding up as strong against some of the nation's best offenses. But Georgia, a little bit of work to do, kind of on the bubble now. And I think I'm with Blake here, a little bit worried about the Bulldogs postseason now, looking forward and what they got to accomplish here the final month of the season.
So technically, just quickly, it does say that according to ESPN BPI, they have the second easiest SEC schedule left, but it's still the 25th toughest in the country to go. So Texas has the easiest according to this, but I don't know that I buy the Georgia one being the second easiest, but we'll see.
Moving up, a team that has not been this high in a few weeks. The Razorbacks, Arkansas, up to 13 after winning 2 of their last 3. Home win against Georgia. Close 3-point home loss against Oklahoma. And then the big one, 10-point win. Best performance of the season yet for the Hogs. 89-79 road win. Calipari's return to Rupp moves their Hogs up to 13 in the power rankings, guys.
Yeah, we talked about it. They jumped up a million. I think it was 1 million spots. I think that's a factual number. They moved up 1 million spots in KenPom after the win. Yeah, I mean, look, they're 2-6, and their tournament hopes are still less than 10% probably to make the tournament. But, I mean, that's the kind of win that'll move you up in our power rankings, especially when the teams around you are struggling, as the teams behind them now are. That's all we needed. Like, we just needed to see signs of life from this Arkansas team, because I didn't really classify the Georgia win as that at home. I just thought that was, again, just sort of Georgia having more issues maybe. But when you go win at Kentucky, you got to move up a bit. And so the Hogs move up for now, and we'll see what they can do here the rest of the way. Big game coming up at Texas on Wednesday. And then, listen, you had a game-changing win on the road at Kentucky. Can you get a game-changing win at home against Alabama on Saturday? That's the big question for the Hogs.
I want to ask you guys something. We've all participated in the piling on would be harsh, I think, of Arkansas, but whatever it's been. Arkansas has not met expectations. Everybody's recognized. Honesty. There we go. I like that.
I don't think we're piling on. We're just being honest.
But, and I think sometimes that offense, like the difficulties there and the not being – the sum of things not being equal to all the parts that go into it, that has been a big talking point. That has been the talking point. But just going to throw this out here. I think you could make the case. In fact, Ken Pom does. It's got Arkansas higher than our next team. That since January 8th, which was game number 2 of SEC play, Arkansas has not played that badly. There's only one double-digit loss in there. That was January the 18th at Missouri, 83-65. Other than that, everything has been a win or a single-digit loss. Just going to put that out there.
I also think they lost at LSU, who's number 16 in our power rankings this week.
Right.
So even if it was a single-digit loss, it's still a loss. I see where you're going with this. They've not played awful. Like, they really haven't. But everybody else around them has played much better. Maybe that's the best way to put it. I don't know.
Well, and to be honest, I put them at 13 also. And I think that's the spot that Arkansas needs to be in. But my point would be, or did I put them 14? I don't remember now. My point would be you try to look at it from all sides, and there is a little bit of evidence that this team has been a little closer than maybe we had given it credit for being.
The Torvik tournament projections have Arkansas at 17% right now to make it. So there is a pulse. They've got 2 SEC wins right now, and JC Hoops thinks 8-8 is a lock. 7-11 is possible depending on the wins, the margins, how they affect the analytics. Got to get 5 or 6 more SEC wins here. Going to be tough, but they just stole one. Capable of stealing a few more. Arkansas, there's a heartbeat there to the postseason berth there into March Madness.
All right, well, put Bart to the test. Put Bart to the test on Chris's theory here. I'm just curious.
Yes.
Put the number in. So after whatever game we're using as the starting point, where have they ranked after that in terms of performance?
January 8th
right?
on.
We use that for other arguments. So let's. I want to see what it looks like for this one.
You want January 8th?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Use the 8th forward. Where have they kind of been slotted? I'm curious.
They are. I'm filtering it for just the SEC.
Putting some bets in.
Arkansas is 57th in the nation since January 8th. Which
14th in the SEC.
It is 14th, but Mississippi State is 56th in the nation. So 14th or 13th. Pretty much right where we got them.
They've been an IT team since then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. Moving up to number 12, we have got Vandy. Vandy at number 12. Moved a few spots back from last week. I think we had them at 10 last week, if I'm not mistaken. But you have the week off after the big home win over Kentucky, bouncing back from that road Alabama loss. You get the midweek off. You go to Oklahoma. You're looking great for the first half, and then Oklahoma at home happens, I guess, if you want to call it that. Just one of the most lopsided second half runs I've seen this year. Oklahoma ends up winning by 30. So Vandy drops back a little bit after we were pretty high on them winning 3 out of their last 4 going into that Oklahoma game.
Well, you can't. I mean, we saw 2 of the most lopsided second half results with LSU, Texas, and Oklahoma, Vanderbilt in the same span of a couple hours on Saturday. In terms of just the absolute destruction from Oklahoma and Texas in terms of running away with those games. But the problem for Vanderbilt now becomes when you lose a game like that way, and now you got to regroup with I mean, what is without a doubt, in my opinion, the toughest. I mean, Alabama's is tough, but Vanderbilt's remaining schedule is just, it's nonsensical these days. At Florida on Tuesday, home against Texas, who we talked about, trending up. Home against Auburn, at Tennessee, at Kentucky, home against Ole Miss, at A&M, home against Missouri, home against a surging Arkansas team, and then at Georgia. So again, it's to find the wins. Luckily, they're 4-4. Now we just got to find the wins for Vanderbilt the rest of the way. 7-11 get them in. Does it got to be 8-10? 8-10 they're getting in, no question. But can they get in at 7-11? I don't know. So it's interesting. You can't afford many more 30-point losses, but I don't think that's going to happen very often. Although I say that they go to Florida on Tuesday, and well, you just never know. So
13th in resume at ESPN BPI this morning. I'm trying to find remaining schedule. Here we go. Remaining strength of schedule. Yeah, they're number 2 in the country behind Alabama.
There you go. Yeah, Vandy does not play a single team the rest of the year that is outside of Ken Palm's top 50. Every single team they play right now currently ranks in the nation's top 50. That's nuts.
Yeah, every single team they play would also be in the NCAA tournament today, I think, barring Arkansas and maybe Georgia. I think Georgia's still in the field at this point.
On the bubble.
They're close. Yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, so Vandy, the good thing with that is you lose a game, you're not moving back that far. You win a game, you're probably moving up a good amount. So, glass half full there for the Commodores.
And also, when they played really poorly, the next game they've responded pretty well for the most part this year. So we'll see how it goes. They got that's a tough. I just think Tuesday's a tough matchup for them. Florida coming off getting embarrassed, and teams that are really high octane offensively have given them problems so far. Although they did beat Kentucky.
They've responded well, but they responded well by getting to come back to their gym and play. Now it's like you got to go play at Florida. Oh, yeah. We'll see.
Vandy only has 2 weeks this whole year where they have to play 2 straight back-to-back true road games. This is the first right here with Oklahoma and Florida back-to-back. So, tough spot.
Hold on. We got a big life question before we move on. Jacob wants to know, real talk, why is ice-cold water so much better than room temp? It's a great question.
That's a great question. It is.
It's a great question, Jacob.
I disagree.
We need to do some. Max disagrees.
Max.
He likes the room temp water.
I got a couple of room temp right here. You can't chug ice cold water. Hurts your throat.
He's not wrong.
You know what it also does? It also burns more calories. Colder water does, because your body has to fight harder to warm it up.
Yeah, what a quarter of a calorie?
It's better than the 0. Who knew we were going here?
Didn't think the argument was set you two off would be cold water. Well, you two are just, you're out of control over there. Big Baller Brett.
Some would say Max drinks shower water.
Well, Shane's saying that Max drinks shower water. I mean, I don't know. You can make that any temperature you want, so you kind of have your own choice there. All right. Anyways, beyond the cold water and the shower water, let's continue on. Maybe because might have to throw a little cold ice on this team right here. Unfortunately, it's quite a segue there. Oh my
man!
Wow.
I want apologies.
What do we have them 5 or 6 earlier in the year?
Not even earlier in the year. Like 2 weeks ago, we had them at 5 or 6. Like, yeah.
Oh,
Eli. Eli's numb.
It's okay.
Like cold water. Like it's just yeah. I mean, look,
7 games, 5 losses, and 2 overtime wins.
Big Gator EJ's asking, come on, are we serious here? But folks, I mean, tell me who you're putting them ahead of right now.
Yeah.
I mean, honest truth, like who are we arguing to put them ahead of right this second based on performance? Because look, like we said, this is a full body of work thing. We still have to factor in what they've done throughout the season. But Max, you've said it. I mean, and you can bring up your same points here, but they have not played well over, I mean, really the past however many weeks.
Yeah. Max, do this. Go to Torvik and run numbers on them from December 4th on. And I'll tell you why I picked that date.
Well, from just January on, they're 13th. But if you go all the way back to December 4th, nationally, December 4th on, they're 29th in the nation.
Okay, that's interesting.
10-5 since December 4th.
29th is the first day. Let's see. The 4th was the first day they played without Kanye Clary.
Yeah, 29th of the nation since then would rank 8th in the SEC. But, I mean, when you look at their last, you got to start looking at SEC play now. They did great work in the non-conference. I mean, we rightfully were talking about them as a 3 seed, flirting with a 2. I remember specifically talking about Mississippi State having the resume to be knocking on that door of that 2 seed if they had just had maybe 1 or 2 more big wins. I feel like that was beginning of January. Lost 5 of your last 7, and the two wins or overtime wins. Good thing you got them. I wouldn't say the sky is falling for Mississippi State, but I think it was Cohen that had a comment in one of our lives on Saturday. It said, like, where 2 3 weeks ago, I was thinking about this team, and this is a Mississippi State student with this comment. I was thinking about this team as a 2 or 3 seed. Now after the past 2-3 weeks, I'm kind of thinking of more as a 6 to an 8 seed. And I think that's all it is. I don't think the sky is falling, but definitely have fallen back a little bit expectation-wise. They were up to, 12 or 15 in KenPom at one point this season. Now they're back to 33rd. Still a good team with guys that can go for 30 points. But I just think the expectations have gone from a 3, even possibly a 2, to more that kind of 6-7 seed range.
Well, look, if they don't get beat by, once again, this is a similar scenario, not exact same, but Texas beat LSU by 31. Missouri just went in and beat Mississippi State by 27 on their home floor. If they don't get beat by that much, we probably still have them a spot or 2 higher. There's no question. But, I mean, I think it's safe to say it's okay to hit the panic button. Maybe not smash the panic button, but it's okay to just hit it after you lose by 27 at home as a top 15 team and say, uh-oh, something may not be going right there. And I know people talk about, it's the hangover effect from the previous game. You can have hangover effects from the previous game and not lose by 27 at home. Now, you give Missouri credit, right? But that's tough. I mean, that's again, and that's why the next 2 teams, I feel like if you're going to, like we said, who would we rank them ahead of? Well, I think the next 2 teams have certainly started moving up, right, Max? And so let's kind of group these next 2 teams together. But Chris, I know you had something you wanted to finish on in Mississippi State before we do that.
Yeah, I'm glad we ran that. That throws a little bit of cold water on my theory that a lot of this is Kanye Clary. Now, I think a lot of it still is, but they went 8-0 their first 8 games without him. One of them was probably their best game of the year. They beat Pitt. They beat McNeese on December 14th, really good NCAA tournament caliber team, and then won at Memphis. So, I don't know. It could just be teams hit these spots in league play sometimes. Again, I brought this up multiple times. UConn had a stretch in which it lost 6 of 8 in conference play. What was it? Second national title year under Hurley. So sometimes it's just happened. It happens to teams. Maybe that's part of it. I still do think ball handling is part of it. But it could also just be one of these skids that really good teams hit from time to time.
I mean, Blake said it also, though. I mean, they have been getting absolutely torched from the 3-point line. And it's not just some fluke thing. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their last 7 games, their opponent has hit double-digit threes. The past 2, it's been 15 of 32 and 15 of 31. I mean, they've just been getting torched from outside.
Here's the ultimate test. If Georgia goes 14 of 32 from 3, pack it up. I'm sorry, pack it up. Because that should not happen on Saturday. But just keep an eye on it. That's when you know this is gone. I don't think it's going to happen, but you get my point. Georgia's not the team that should be doing that. So,
yeah. You ready to, Blake, you said you wanted to group 10 and 9 together?
Hey, Eli, listen here, pal. I'm trying to tell you that you've got to focus, okay, on the 3-point line against Georgia. They are not a great 3-point shooting team. You know this. Don't let it happen, okay? You got the midweek off, right? So it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. It's okay. All right. Now, let's group the next two teams together because I think they're an interesting discussion right now.
10, we have Oklahoma coming off of probably their most impressive just overall performance of the year, beating Vandy by 30, putting up 97. That was the most they've put up all year. And then we're grouping them with Ole Miss at 9, who is in a similar spot as Mississippi State, to be honest. They've lost 4 of their last 5. They did pick up the home win against Texas and then had chances they would get it down to 1, get it down to 2 against Auburn. Auburn just too good for Ole Miss. They're at 9, Oklahoma at 10 here.
Yeah, so I think these two teams are interesting because, and even number 8's interesting. I mean, look, again, there's a team you've not seen here that we were really down on for a while.
Yep. That's
all of a sudden made some movement. But I think Oklahoma, which I know Chris has kind of been saying that he felt like we were, I don't know what the wording was, unfair to Oklahoma maybe, but I mentioned, I think, when they started 0-4, there was reason to be concerned. I don't think any question about that. But now it's like, okay, you kind of get some of these results, right? They beat South Carolina by 20 at home. Now they beat Vanderbilt by 30 at home. And just like, man, the wide range sometimes for this team. Of course, they lost at Georgia. The 2 games against A&M were competitive and could have gone either way. But I think this is where, once again, it's hitting a certain part of your schedule where, all right, Oklahoma has moved up. Now you go to Auburn on Tuesday, and then you host Tennessee on Saturday. Ooh. Then you go to Missouri next Wednesday. And then a week after that, you go to Florida. So, like, they're about to hit, I've got to look at this, but I'm going to assume, looking at ESPN's BPI remaining strength of schedule, I'm going to assume they're 3rd, and they are. Because as I'm looking at their schedule, yeah, it's behind Alabama and Vanderbilt. So they got the 3rd toughest schedule remaining, does Oklahoma. Now, what's interesting about Ole Miss, I think, is that they've lost 4 or 5. But, again, we're kind of using the theory that look at how the games have played out in some of those. I mean, is there anyone that's had more of like an just fascinating stretch from January 14th to now, where they beat Alabama on the road, they lose a game at Mississippi State in overtime, they lose by 1 at home against A&M in a game they should have won, lose by 8 at Missouri, down double digits against Texas at home, come back and win. And then they had opportunities against the number 1 team in the country in Auburn on Saturday, but they lose by 10 in that one. It's just, I mean, this kind of shows you, I think these two teams are a great example of like, it's the, you're bouncing back and forth all the time, like just based on 1 result or 2 results or whatever. And I think Ole Miss is still fine in terms of their NCAA tournament because remember, they did the work early. They started 4-0 in league play, so it was the opposite of Oklahoma. But now you kind of see where they're both at, and this kind of shows you, right? One starts 4-0, one starts 0-4, and yet, you kind of feel like, okay, one team may be heading in this direction, one team may be heading in that direction, and so that's just this league this year.
Yeah, they're hard to make sense of week to week because I look and I'm like, is there a common denominator where they don't play well against elite offenses or on the road or whatever? And there's nothing there that I can conclude.
The thing that, because these teams are all real close right now. They all have, just 1 week. I think I said this last week. Just 1 good week in this group. You can jump or you could fall all the way back. The thing about Ole Miss that just I like is you've seen them against Alabama and Auburn, and they've held their own in both of those. They completely outplayed Alabama at Alabama and then held their own against Auburn at home. And so just by them doing that, it gives me confidence that they're not, that 4-0 start wasn't just smokescreen. When you look at Oklahoma, they've played Alabama 107-79. So it's just the only thing I'm using to separate is Ole Miss has just looked a little bit better against the top. But then again, Mississippi State was there knocking on the door against Alabama. We're down on Mississippi State right now, but hey, they go out and have a good week. You can jump from 11 in the power rankings to 8 like that. It's such a tight group right here. So there you go. Ready to move up to 8?
Who's 8?
Highest ranking for this team, I believe, all year, or at least in my memory goes back.
It's the highest, yeah.
Highest for Texas at number 8. Surging are the Longhorns. Top 30 in KenPom right now for the first time since November. Winners of 4 of their last 6, with the only 2 losses in their past 6 being at Florida and at Ole Miss. Wins over Oklahoma, Mizzou, A&M, and then LSU by 30. Guys, Texas playing the best we've seen them all year.
Yeah, and this is why it's a power ranking today. And you have to factor in the recent results. They have to weigh a little bit more than what we said with the non-conference. They didn't have a great non-conference schedule, but it's the way they're playing now that matters. And they are playing really well. Again, getting that win against Missouri, that kind of started things. And then, actually, I guess you could say what really started it was just finding a way to win that Oklahoma game on the road because they were 0-3 at that point. We said, don't look now. They lose that one. Probably going to be 0-5, which they lost the Florida game. But now they're almost all the way back to 500 in the league, and all they got to do is beat Arkansas on Wednesday, and they're there. And look, like we said, how you perform matters too. Not just do you win or lose, it's how you perform. And a 31-point road win at LSU, I don't care who you are. Like, LSU may be the number 16 team, but that was such an impressive second-half performance from them that you kind of add that into everything else we've seen over the past several weeks from Texas, and we thought they were trending up in the right direction. There's no question about it now. And so kind of a big week for them too, though. Think about it. They do get Arkansas on Wednesday. They go to Vanderbilt on Saturday. What happens if Texas comes out 2-0 this week, right? I mean, they've gone from being an NCAA tournament bubble team to probably feeling pretty good about themselves as an 8 or 9, something like that for now. I think they're a team that we always are like, hey, you don't want to see that team this time of year. They're starting to be one of those teams you really don't want to play right now.
Zach here with a super chat. Tough shot, Texas. Big fan. I like that name for Texas. Tough shot, Texas. It's what they do. And in their face, Trey Johnson, Kaluma, Pope. Got guys that make tough shots in big-time scenarios. Tough team to guard.
Yeah, Bracket Matrix and Lenardi both had Texas as an 11 seed. I don't know that there's been an update since the LSU game, for whatever that's worth. There hasn't been at Lenardi, and Bracket Matrix usually lags a few days. I'm just kind of interested to see if the seeding reflects more where the computers have Texas as it racks up some good wins finally.
Interesting note about Texas is if they're like a 7, 8, or 9, 10, whatever it is, good chances they're going to have the best player on the floor with Trey Johnson.
Yeah.
And I like to lean on that in March in tournament settings.
Well, and I said that, I think last week, we were going through which team, like on the bottom 4 teams, has the most upside in terms of doing some damage in the NCAA tournament. And I made that case for that reason, Max.
Yeah. Anything else on Texas? Moving up to number 7?
Yep.
Moving up. Number 7, the Cats. The Cats of Kentucky. Fallen back a little bit. They've gotten just decimated by the injury bug the past few weeks. Lamont Butler, the heart and soul of that team, still out for the foreseeable future. Andrew Carr's trying to make his way back, not looking like himself, battling through a tough back injury. Still no Creasa. Kentucky has lost 3 of their last 4. They did, however, pick up a massive road win at Tennessee, something that not a lot of teams do, no matter who's playing for you. So the high variance Cats, if you want to call them that, winning the big ones, dropping a few others.
And that's the thing. It's like probably after Saturday, there's some people thinking Kentucky's got to drop to 10 or lower. But then you're like, wait a second. Days earlier, they beat Tennessee on the road. Right? I mean, it's just, this is what you're getting right now. And that's why Max has said multiple times. the variance with this team, just you cannot predict what you're really going to get here. And so, like, they just bounce around all the time in our rankings. And, we still probably weigh them on, look at the high, look at the ceiling for the wins, right? It's ridiculous the good wins they have. But then you're like, okay, well, they turn around and lose at home to an Arkansas team that just had been going nowhere. And so now they got a tough, tricky game at Ole Miss on Tuesday. Because we kept saying, we're like, Ole Miss has got to win some of these.
Yep.
And, that's one where Ole Miss probably feels like, hey, we got a great opportunity defensively against this Kentucky team right now just with the inconsistency. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to say about the Cats. Like, it's just until they get fully healthy, it's hard to know what you're getting game in and game out, and that's kind of been the thing without Lamont Butler. And I think that's what we talked about on Saturday night. It's just sort of without him, like that range gets a lot wider in terms of the outcomes. So
well, and again, it's not just being without Lamont Butler; it's also being without Kirk Risa.
Mm-hmm. But Butler's the guy that makes them go, like 100%.
Well, yes, but I'm saying that you could absorb that blow much easier if you had one of them. And I agree with you. Butler is the guy that makes them go. But on one hand, I'm sitting there thinking, well, I mean, of course this happens. Of course, they don't look so great when they're out both of their point guards. I mean, how many teams would pick a team in the country? And I think anybody would be struggling. The problem is defense has been an issue with them even when they've had Butler. And oh, by the way, not me saying it, I'm just going to read you the headline from Kentucky Sports Report. Mark Pope's injury update on Lamont Butler isn't going to inspire optimism. And basically he goes on to say he's not sure when he's going to be back.
Yeah, and we've been harping on the defense, but the main thing that's been really pulling him down with these injuries on the season right now, Kentucky offensively is 24th in turnover percentage, like limiting turnovers offensively, only 14.6% on the season. But when you just go SEC play, that goes from 14.4 to 17.7, which is in the bottom half of the league. So they went from being one of the best teams in the nation at taking care of the ball offensively to now they're one of the most turnover-prone teams in the league. So that's a big jump.
Yep. I mean, again, the defense speaks for itself. We've had that conversation before. We know where it stands on that. Yeah, I mean, I still think they're better with Butler defensively, but the range is just too wide right now to know what you're going to get night in, night out. So,
yep. Ready to move up to number 6?
Number 6. This is where, like, I don't even remember what the rankings are. Okay, A&M.
The Aggies. Now, we're unanimous on these top 6. This is the first time all year that we have had a unanimous top 6. Texas A&M comes in at number 6. I believe this is their highest in a few weeks. They've kind of been floating between 7 and 9 in our power rankings. I've got some stats from, I'm going to butcher the last name here. I'm sorry, but Luke Evangelist, Texas A&M, Tex Ags, reporter for A&M, puts out absolutely fantastic stats. So here is some numbers on A&M's resume. They have 12 wins inside Quad 1 and Quad 2. That's third in the nation. They have 7 Quad 1 wins, third in the nation. They have 0 losses outside of Quad 1. Their non-conference strength of schedule was 30th. They're 7-4 away from home. And then their resume average, when you take KPI, strength of record, and wins above bubble, 5th in the nation. Guys, I'm seeing bracketology with A&M as a 2 seed. This might be the most disrespected team in the nation for the resume that they've put together.
Well, I think I know why. Because I agree with you. The resume's been there all year. All right, if I just give you...
Where did Chris go?
Oh, I can't hear him anymore. His mic just turned off.
Sorry, I accidentally.
He got a little too excited about pushing back on the Aggies that he muted himself.
I got a little too excited. Well, no, I mean, this is the classic case of resume, which we've been arguing all year is tremendous, and also an old team, which is also good. But then you watch them play and their problems. Forget everything you know about this team. If I just told you 3-point percentage, 31.5, ranking 286th according to KenPom. 2-point percentage, where I thought they'd be better than this, 49.2. That ranks 250th. Free throw percentage, 68.5. That ranks 295th. Where do they rank overall in adjusted offensive efficiency?
Yeah, I mean, they're still, top 40 just because of their offensive rebounding number and
they're 32
and all that.
Because they're that elite and they're not even good at preventing turnovers. That's how crazy good they are at offensive rebounds, because that offensive rating is completely built on the strength of their ability to just continuously throw the ball off the glass, and go get it.
So I was going to follow up when Max read all that stuff that Luke put up. My follow-up was going to be simple. 4 words, a 4-word question. Do you trust them? Like, even with all the long list of accomplishments, do you trust them? I think there's a lot more reasons to trust them this year than there have been in previous seasons. And yet there is still that thought that even with this body of work, I don't know. What is it, Max? Maybe you can help me define what it is. Like, what is it? Why am I still so I'm still not sure. I mean, it's just the history? Is it that simple? Like, hey, this should have been a team. We go back to last year, right? And we were joking. You sent us all those numbers on Saturday, I think, or whatever day in the group chat. I said, yep, and this is where they lose 4 straight, right? Like, because history, that's where all of a sudden things just start going the wrong way for them. But it does feel different this year. They're 17-5, and I think and maybe this is the best way to describe it. Like, if you look at their results in SEC play, they won at Oklahoma by 2. They won at Ole Miss by a point. They lost at Texas by a point. They win at South Carolina by 4. Even the Oklahoma game at home, they win by 7, right? So it's like they haven't had a lot of those just completely, other than the Texas game at home to start league play. All these games have kind of just bounced around in terms of consistency throughout the game and the final, result in terms of, outcome. So I mean, maybe it's just part of that, but if you do look at the overall resume, it's hard for me to sit here and be like, do I trust them?
Blake,
why shouldn't I?
I think I can sum it up for you. They are the rare team that you go back and look at the guys that were playing their most minutes last year, or the guys that are playing their most minutes this year. For the most part, they did add Payne and good grief, who else did they add? Phelps. Yes, I went blank. But okay, I'm going to just read off KenPom percentage of possessions used last year. Wade Taylor 1, Tyrese Radford number 2, he's gone. But Taylor's back. Abaski was 3, he's back. Hayden Hefner 4th, he's back. Eli Lawrence was 5th. That's a fluke. He just was like a walk-on who, when he played, got a high usage. So throw him out. Henry Coleman next, he's back. Then you go Jace Carter, Solo, Washington, and then on down to Anderson Garcia. Point is, it's a lot of the same guys who we saw last year. And they were confusing as all get out last year, too. Again, just February and March, it was like you were watching 2 totally different teams. And you watch them this year, and some nights you're going, oh, my goodness. They're old. They get offensive rebounds. If they shoot a little bit, they can beat anybody. They're tough-minded. And then you watch them shoot, and all the doubts creep in.
I think people don't trust them just because they're scared of trusting a play style like.
Well, yeah, you should be.
I don't think you should. I think they have the 7th best defense in the nation, and they're the best rebounding team in the nation. They've gotten much better at taking care of the ball in conference play. They were 218th nationally in turnovers offensively in non-conference. You go to just conference play, they're 6th in the SEC, top 6 in the SEC, and taking care of the ball offensively. They're 3rd in the conference in steals. They make it absolutely hell to try to score inside. They've got a front court rotation that no one in the nation can match. They've got a microwave 3-point guy. I think this team is as rock solid as it gets. They're 15th in the nation, and KenPom looking at a 2 seed. I think just because they don't shoot a high percentage and it's not pretty, people get scared of them. This is one of the best defenses in the nation, and they've got scrappy guards. They've got depth. If they hit a few threes against you, good luck. You're probably not winning that game.
Yeah, looking a little further, they were also number 1 in the country in offensive rebounding last year, which is exactly who are they. But this is what's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that because it got me to thinking, looking. They are about 8 points better per 100 possessions on defense than they were a year ago.
Payne and Phelps.
That's substantial. Over like a normal game, that's about 6 points difference on that side of the floor. That is enormous.
Last year, the front court was Andy Garcia, Henry Coleman, and Solo Washington. Kept all 3 of them and added the Big Ten's best offensive rebounder and the best block man from the Big Ten, Farrell Payne.
Okay.
No, 5 of the last games this season are at home. So they're going to shoot 248 free throws in those 5 games and probably be just fine. Like, just because they have a style that works. And again, whether you like it or not, like they're working the style. And yeah, so I mean, I think it's good to have an argument as to one way or the other because they have been the team that we've had the hardest time trusting over the past couple of years. And I think the difference this year is that their body of work is just better. So, and some of their losses were without their best player. So, yeah.
And they haven't had Solo Washington the past 2 games, too. We're able to soak up that loss. Okay, ready to move on to top 5 here? This is where it gets a little bit tricky because these teams, we're starting to get into teams that have played each other twice. And you get to head-to-head results and stuff like that. We've got Florida at number 5. Florida is a tough team to grade right now. They've got some mixed match results. You can just go through their last 4 games here. You win against Texas at home by 24. Then you go and barely sneak one out by 1 point at South Carolina. You come home and beat Georgia by 30. And then you go to Tennessee, a team that you beat by 30 a few weeks ago, and you lose by 20 when they don't have half their team. Good luck trying to pinpoint where Florida's gonna end up next game. It's been so on and off with this team past few weeks.
Well, and just quickly, like Malik, I mean, look, it would have been simple, right? If Florida had beaten Tennessee, we're obviously ranking Florida ahead of Tennessee. But, like, I think we may still think long-term in terms of Florida. Maybe you think the upside's higher. Some of us may agree with that. But, I mean, it's just like you have that result that you had on Saturday, and it's like, wait a second. You have to sort of reset your thinking on it a little bit, don't you? So I mean, Florida, they're still 18-3. Let's call it what it is. They're still fine in terms of their record and everything. And, you know, I think their path, like in the SEC title race, just because of what Auburn and Alabama are doing right now, is getting tougher and tougher because anytime you drop games, like you're further away from a team that is yet to drop a game. But I don't know. So, I mean, look, Big Gator EJ, that's still 10 points better overall than Tennessee. I mean, that's a good way to put it. We have to use the transitive property. One team beat one by 30, the other one beat the other one by 20. Therefore, let's go back to the basics here. The 10 points overall. So
I'm going to push back. Now to check, I did put Florida at 4 in mine. And here's the thing: you said Florida's been up and down. That game Saturday was so far out of context of everything else they've done. Florida's not been below 70 points in a game until Saturday. I wrote that off. I mean, it's part of things, and if they throw up another clunker like that again, then I'll pay more attention. But when a team is that good, you kind of get one mulligan, and I think EJ's right. I think you look at body of performance on the season, and not just that game. I don't think Florida's offense is going to go in the deep freeze like that again. Also, Clayton rolled his ankle in that game, did he not? Just reading reports. I didn't get to see it because I was coaching a game. I think that factors in. And, of course, Tennessee had 2 guys out. I get it. But I don't know. I'm not – I did not move as much on Florida, in my opinion, as you guys did. But that's just the difference in us. You guys – I racked a little bit less from game to game and more on what have you done the whole year.
Should they have lost at South Carolina when South Carolina didn't have Jamari Thomas and Miles Studi and they were down by 5 with 1 minute left?
Fair. That's fair. But they also went and clocked Georgia. A really good.
So?
30 points.
So?
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, but that's different in my opinion.
They beat Texas by 24 points 2 weeks ago. They lost by 1 against Missouri. That was at home. I get it. My opinion on Florida did not move as much as yours did after that one.
But stop saying that, because we're not ranking Florida at 10. Like, we're just ranking them behind the team that just lost to by 20. That's all we did.
I know.
I mean, we're not moving our opinion on Florida like that wide, and I think you're playing to the chat here. Big Gator, EJ, and Malik, and all these guys
Florida
getting on
last week 3.
We're not. I don't know.
The thing with Florida now, that because I was probably the highest man on Florida a few weeks ago, it's just their road performances now. You're seeing a trend. You lose at Kentucky. Yeah. You do beat Arkansas at Arkansas. Should have lost against South Carolina. You lose by 20 at Tennessee. They're amazing at home. We knew that, but they're not. When they go to travel and play on the road, it has not looked good.
Yeah,
fair.
I struggled to give the benefit of a doubt to the team that just scored 44, in a game against the other team who's missing 2 players, right? And that's where, like, we can play the Tennessee or Florida won by 30 the first time, right? How different was that game in terms of personnel?
Well,
I don't know. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Who do you think is going to have the best
day,
season of the two going forward? Florida or Tennessee?
Well, let's loop it in.
Is that the power ranking, though? Is that how we rank power rankings?
Who
we think has the best
trying
season
to get at what you guys
the rest
really
of the
think
way?
here.
For Tennessee, let's loop them into this argument. Tennessee coming off the 20-point win. Before that, they dropped 2 in a row. They lost at home to Kentucky in a game that Kentucky didn't have Lamont Butler, and everyone and their mother thought Tennessee was going to win that game easily given the Kentucky injuries. That doesn't happen. Tennessee drops that one, coming off of a 53-51 heartbreaker on the road at the number 1 team in the nation, on Auburn. So that's the past 3 games there for Tennessee. But right before that, Mississippi State home win. So loop that now we loop that in. Tennessee, 1 spot higher than Florida. Blake, what are you thinking about Tennessee compared to when they lost that game January 18th at home against Vanderbilt? And we're thinking like, oh my goodness, what the heck happened? Where are you at now compared to maybe two weeks ago on Tennessee?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, it's very simple for me, okay? And this does tie into Florida. If Florida wins that game against Tennessee, I'm ranking Florida ahead of Tennessee this week. Right? Like, it's pretty simple. If Tennessee wins that game by 2, I may still probably rank Tennessee or Florida ahead of Tennessee. Like, even though it's like the head-to-head, whatever, right? But it's just, so, I mean, with Tennessee, it's also, too, like, what is the value of one of these losses? Who else has gone in and almost beaten Auburn on their home floor, right? And you can say it's ugly. Sure it was, 53-51. But, like, I thought it was pretty good basketball in terms of just 2 teams just defensively were relentless, and we're not going to let the other team find a good shot. All right? Then they lose the game at home against Kentucky, as you said. I don't know. Like, do we reset our expectations on Tennessee? That was my thought coming out of it. Uh-oh, now it's time to start getting concerned. And then they come back and win by 20 against the top 5 team, missing 2 of their best players. So it's like, if we're supposed to have some just complete, perfect answer, right? I don't. Because that's how it works in this league this year, isn't it? How are we supposed to have a perfect answer on the majority of these teams? Now, there's a couple of teams now that we're starting to be like, all right, and I think it starts at 3. 3, 2, 1, we feel pretty confident about those 3 teams right now. But at any time, could any of these top 3 teams start to lose a game or 2? Maybe. And the Auburn fans are like, nope, we're not losing, but it may happen. And so when teams start doing this, you're just having the common opponents, right? Everybody's playing each other. You're getting just wild results. This is just going to happen throughout the course of a season, especially in a year like this. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't have a perfect answer. I don't.
Without looking, and I realize we are isolating their worst side of the two between offense and defense because they are elite defensively. Nobody would question that. How many games has it been since Tennessee cracked 80 points?
Probably one of those Lanier games.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while because that was the argument we were pushing against them on the past 2 weeks is that they couldn't score. So, right. Yeah, it's been a while. No question.
Yeah, it was December 23rd against Middle Tennessee State. Last 3 games offensively, 51, 73, 64. 73 was against a Kentucky team that is not defending anybody right now. Again, we are isolating their weak part. Their defense is elite, but that is why I'm still a little higher on Florida.
Yep. I don't have too much to add. I think we nailed down these two. Ready to move on to number 3, who is just, I know there's a bunch of people waiting on this one. There's a bunch of people waiting on this one. Number 3, for the first time all year, the Missouri Tigers are number 3 in our power rankings, top 3 in one of the best leagues in the history of the sport. They've only lost 1 game in their past 7, and that was at Texas in a game where they just could not buy a bucket. Coming off of 2 straight wins against the Mississippi schools, home against Ole Miss, and then went into Starkville and did something that almost nobody does, and that is run the Bulldogs out of their own building there, 88-61. Guys, Missouri, when you look at the analytics over the past 2 months, they are top 10 in the nation, playing some of the best basketball in the league right now, guys.
Well, listen, I think they just got one of the best wins of any team this season in the SEC. And it wasn't just because they beat Mississippi State, who's now dropped into double digits in our rankings, which mean nothing. But it's how they did it. And they've got, as I've said now, they have an SEC Player of the Year candidate who in any other season would probably just be, just think about the praise we can give all these candidates this year. And we just know what Broom is doing at Auburn. And it's so hard to surpass that for anyone. But Caleb Grill, as we've said, has just been an absolute madman in SEC play. Really the entire season. But you look at what he's done, it's just been the guy is just tremendous. He is the catalyst for some of these results like you get on Saturday, where it's just like, how did that happen? Well, a lot of things went into it. And we said that was kind of a total, and that's why Missouri is number 3 now. The total team effort that they put together night in and night out. They're one of the deepest teams in the country, period. And that's why they're winning games. But they're also winning games because Caleb Grill is he's just going off. And it's so fun to watch, right? Because 6 of 11 against Mississippi State, 5 of 9 against Ole Miss. Like the game against Florida we talked about, 6 of 10 from 3. Those are just, when you have a guy like that, you can completely flip the expectations for a team, and that's exactly what Missouri has done this season, is they flipped it from last year, but it also takes great coaching. It takes a roster that is bought in to their role, which we talked about. Our guy Joey Dwyer writing the story on Josh Gray, and then what happens? Josh Gray was so excited talking to our guy Joey Dwyer, brought out the best. He goes out and gets him a double-double. And yeah, I love the depth on this team. I think it's the difference, but so is just having a guy like Caleb Grill. Sometimes it can be that simple.
I dropped a little something in the chat. Unfortunately, you've got to be a subscriber to 24/7 Sports to see it. But my buddy Gabe DeArmond sent this to me Saturday after the game, and I laughed my head off. You have to be of a certain generation to get it, but anyway. This is the graphic I was trying to send you, Max, if we could get it in
I can't
graphical
see it.
form. Okay, yeah, because you're...
Thoughts on Missouri, Chris?
Anyway, thoughts on Missouri. I think about the offense more than the defense. I looked it up. 5th in the league in SEC-only play and defensive efficiency. Again, the depth, the parts they can get. Caleb Brill is easily on the list of most underrated players in the league. Love what he does. The kid does not miss anything when he's in the ball game. I think we're all really bullish on Missouri right now.
Yep, Caleb Grill's getting his flowers as he should, and I'm going to do what I'm here to do, and I'm going to highlight the guys that don't get highlighted. Talking a little bit about Tony Perkins. You thought I was going to go Mark Mitchell, Trent Pearson, Josh Gray. You thought I was. No. Going Tony Perkins. They've got so many options. This guy is just – Tony is 5 assists, 0 turnovers against Mississippi State on the road. He just does a little bit of everything. He's never going to be on the stat sheet that much, but he's just played a ton of basketball. Big Ten starter for years. The bench minutes on this team is just crazy. They're 15th in the nation in bench minutes. How many times have I talked about the formula for the formula they've got is just outstanding. Number 1 in the league in free throw attempts, number 2 in the league in defensive rebounding, number 1 in the league in steal rate, and then number 1 in the league in 3-point rate. They shoot a ton of threes. They shoot a ton of free throws. They don't let you get offensive rebounds, and then they force a million turnovers. It's an absolutely perfect formula, perfect identity. This team's not going anywhere. They're a tough team to play. Not going anywhere.
Yeah, Perkins is played more than Robinson the last 2 games. Had not noticed that till just now. Your comment sparked me to look it up. Of course, Robinson also had 5 fouls in one and 4 in another. But it goes to show, again, we've talked about it for a while, their depth just is second to none.
Yeah.
Mother Carol's heading back to work, but before we get her out of here, she had a $3 super chat earlier. Happy for Missouri. Still blames me for cursing Kentucky and moving them down to the 7th spot, so understandable there. Adam has joined the It Just Means More tier. He'll be joining in on the watch-along this week, which I don't think we've officially decided on who the watch-along will be this week, but we'll let you know, of course, throughout the week. So, yeah, join the It Just Means More tier. Lots of members-only content, the watch-alongs, a bunch of other fun stuff we'll be doing probably throughout March once we get into the tournament time and all that, so we appreciate that there. Randy said earlier, yes, hasn't this year been awesome for the SEC? It absolutely has. And Andrew, $7 super chat. He's giving us $1 for every 3 Caleb Girl's going to hit in Knoxville. So, again, I don't root against anyone here, but if Caleb Girl decides to hit, 473 threes, I'm okay with that. Just because if Andrew's going to keep giving us $1 for every 3-pointer. But, all right, let's get to the top 2, and we might have to move a little quicker here. Nothing against the top 2, but ho-hum, here we are again with the same top 2 it's been over the past couple weeks.
Crimson Tide, looking at a 1 seed now in March, something that they're familiar with. Alabama we've been saying for the entire season, when are they going to hit their ceiling? When are they going to hit their ceiling? When are they going to start making threes? Chris Youngblood says, shut up, guys. I'm here. I'm making threes. Stop harping on this offense because we're here. 90 points, 88 points, 80, 103, 102. Alabama guys rolling right now.
Who's worried about the Tide? I'm not worried about the Tide. How could anyone be worried about the Tide right now? They go get the win at Mississippi State. They come back with the win against Georgia. They're rolling. The one outlier, the Ole Miss game. But other than that, I mean, what do we have to say that's bad about Alabama since like the 1st of December? I mean, it's a 2-month stretch here where they've just been outstanding. And I think now, I could be wrong about this, but if you look at the national title favorites, I think Auburn's 1, Duke's 2, and I think Alabama's 3. So that makes sense, probably with the way the Tide have been playing. I don't have
Do
a
you
lot to
have
add
the odds
here.
right in front of you, or are you just...
I don't, but I saw it a couple days ago, and that was the order. I actually think Auburn and Duke had the same odds, but Alabama was next. So, I mean, how should that shouldn't be surprising, right? Who else would have better odds than Alabama based on the way they've been playing? I can't imagine it's anyone else because Iowa State just dropped a game. They dropped 2 games, right? They've dropped 2 in a row now. Houston, I mean, the odds for them, I still think Alabama has better odds because Houston just lost that one at home against Texas Tech. No shame in that, but pretty sure it's your top 3.
Their next 4 games are super interesting. And by the way, they have a week off. The first one is Arkansas on the road. That's interesting. Just that'll be our reality check against, is Arkansas tapped into something, or was that just a one-off? They go to Texas. I'm not sure we circled Alabama going to Texas. It's one of the more interesting games in the league, but based on the way Texas is playing, I think it will be. Then Auburn, for reasons everybody knows, and then they go to Missouri, guys. Be really fun to see that one. That 4-game stretch coming up is fascinating.
By the way, just on the odds quickly, yeah, they're still even. Auburn and Duke still have the same odds in terms of national title odds. Houston actually has jumped Alabama since the last time I saw it. So it's very close, though. The number is pretty much the same, but it's very slight jump on that. Tennessee still has the 6th best odds, according to some of these. So
it's also worth mentioning that Big Cliff is starting to play his best basketball of the year, just being a force. Early on in the season, we were like, wait a second, I thought we were going to have a little bit more of an impact from a guy like Cliff. Really starting to feel it now, and you can feel his presence being missed when he's not on the floor. I feel like is the biggest thing for me. When he's not out there, there's a big difference from when he is, just kind of how the other offense operates. So Big Cliff really starting to make his presence felt.
All right, let's finish up here.
Finish up with another number 1 rank in the power rankings, the Southeastern 16 power rankings, the Auburn Fighting Tigers. Auburn still undefeated in SEC play this past week, going to LSU, winning by 13, going to Ole Miss. A lot of people thought, hey, this is one of those weeks where Auburn's got to do the double back-to-back on the road. Does someone catch them? I tried to take a chance. Thought maybe the Rebels could catch them. Nope. Offense too consistent. Jani Broom, too good. Too many shooters. Auburn, an absolute machine, as we've liked to call them, guys.
Yeah, the Tigers are still an absolute juggernaut at this point. There's no question about it. We said it. KenPom's kind of going 16-2 in the strongest league in the history of civilization. And yeah, I mean, they just keep finding ways to win. And like we said before, they are just historically good offensively, but man, their defense is really good too. And that's what's helped them win some of these games, as we know. And I just think it's going to continue to be the case all year long. It's a team that's fully bought in. Everybody knows their role. And yeah, I mean, don't look now. 5 of their next 7 at home. Good luck, because we know what they look like in that building. And it's just, yeah, and of course the 2 road games in there are very interesting next week at Vanderbilt and Alabama. But yeah, I mean, 5 of their next 7 at home, and then fun stretched in the season at Kentucky, at A&M, home against Alabama. But right now, everyone chasing the Tigers at the top.
Yeah, you almost run out of good things to say. I mean, you look at KenPom and like you try to find like where's a weakness. They don't force a lot of turnovers. Plenty of teams win playing good defense without doing that. It's just not their style. And maybe the free throw line could be their undoing. They don't get there a ton, and they put other teams there a good bit. I mean, other than that, what do we even pick a bone with here, guys?
Now we can pick a bone with this quickly.
Go ahead.
Their quad 1 wins have dropped from 13 to 12.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Coming apart at the seams.
Oh, no. Who was it? Somebody dropped a point or whatever, and it knocked them out of that quad 1 win. They were 13-1 after they won on Saturday, but it's since dropped because there was a result. I don't remember who it was, but someone dropped out of that range. Maybe Mississippi State. I bet it was because they're 31 now. Yep. So Mississippi State dropped. Yep, that's what happened. So
last night I watched the extended highlights of last year's Auburn at Alabama game. That was the game. It was the first one, not the second one, because the second one was an Alabama loss, I believe. Yeah. So first, I'm talking about the January 24th game. When Alabama hosted Auburn and won by 4 at home. There were stretches of play in that game where the backcourt for Auburn was Trey Donaldson, Katie Johnson, and Lior Berman. And I was just like, I forgot about this. I completely forgot about this. And then there's stretches where Broom's on the bench, and the front court is Chris Moore and Dylan Cardwell on the road, and Katie Johnson's bringing the ball up the court. And I'm like, well, I forgot this team looked like this last year for a while, and I picked them to win it all. What was I doing? But however, I'm just saying, like, we season to season, we forget so quickly. I mean, last year, Auburn's guards, when you go and you watch it back, compared to Pettiford, Kelly, Jones this year, last year you're bringing Berman off the bench for some minutes. This year you're bringing up Ja'Kai Howard jumping through the roof. It's just like, nothing against those guys last year. Blake and I really liked what Trey Donaldson was doing final stretch, late February and March last year. But man, the difference between the backcourt and this year, you don't realize it until you go back and watch it. It's crazy.
As a footnote, that sent me to Google search KG Johnson. I've forgotten where he was. He's now at George Mason. I wonder if there's ever been a player in the history of college basketball whose scoring average has dropped every year, a 5-year player, which is the case for him.
But yeah, I mean, Brett says it right here. Pearl, yeah, there was a stretch where Berman was guarding Sears in that game. It just completely forgot about it based on the way this team looks this year. Completely forgot about it.
There you go. There are rankings for this week. Of course, we think Auburn's got a path to a national championship, perhaps. Alabama might too. Some other teams might as well. In here, we talked about the odds, all that good stuff. If you want to fill out your bracket, my goodness, if you don't know by now, you got to do it with our friends at BracketBids. Of course, just a tremendous resource for you guys. Coming up in the NCAA tournament this year, you don't just have to fill out a bracket. You can take it to the next level with BracketBids. Enter that free pick'em contest or start an auction draft league with your friends, family, or coworkers. We're going to do it. We're telling you that. Everyone starts with the same bidding dollars. Up to you to outwit and outbid your league mates to secure the teams you think will go the distance. Remember, multiple scoring models, including the upset bonuses and bold picks. So all you guys out there hating on Max Barr for picking Ole Miss against Auburn, he's doing it because BracketBids rewards bold picks.
Yes.
You can have more of them. Come NCAA tournament time, you can track your teams with live in-game scoring and watch the standings shift in real time, just as the pick'ems standing shifted on Saturday, as yours truly is now tied with Max Barr at the top while Chris lags behind. The further your teams advance, the higher you climb the league standings. Boy, this BracketBids read was made for today. For league play, use that promo code SE16 for 40% off. SE16, remember, 40% off. Download the BracketBids app today or visit them at bracketbids.com.
Someone asked for an email address. I dropped that in the chat. Go ahead, Max. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. You can finish with that. Let Richard know.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Just real quick on Auburn. Bart Torvik's got them 85% chance as a 1 seed for Auburn. 85% chance at a 1, pretty much all but locked up. And I do apologize to the Auburn Nation. Well, I don't apologize because if I picked Auburn, we would all give them the kiss of death and it might be a different outcome. But
did you say 85% chance?
That seems low.
Yeah, 85 for a 1 seed.
You may think it seems low for Auburn, but guaranteed it seems low for Sanders Logistics because 100% of the time, these guys are going to deliver when it comes to your moving needs. 100%. Forget this 85%. Bart Torvik doesn't know Sanders Logistics. He doesn't know Ted R. Sanders Moving, the leader among moving companies in Nashville, Tennessee, and the surrounding area. Their team of professional movers are focused on delivering efficient, hassle-free moving at an affordable price. That's not 85%. That's 100%. That's what it sounds like to me. Whether you're moving across town or across the country, Sanders Logistics has you covered. Visit them at tedrsandersmoving.com.
You caught me off guard with that. You did.
I knew I would.
I was not expecting that.
I did.
Darn it.
You're welcome.
Do you think Auburn could lose its last 10 regular season games and the tournament and still get in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
I do too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Go on 11-game losing streak to end the year and still make the NCAA tournament because what you banked is so good.
You got to get Sanders to just use a theme song, by the way.
Yeah. We got to get a jingle going.
Maybe Max can make us a theme song. He can like just do like a beatbox. What do you think about that?
We rip Sanford and Son? We could do that.
No, we cannot do that.
Not here.
We're not going to do that at all. At all. We don't want to take any chances with Sanford and Son. We'll have to either hum it or I don't know. So,
all right. We got some predictions to make.
Picks coming up.
Long episode this was.
Yeah, working on baseball stuff. I guess are we going to put up the Butch Thompson interview today, Max? I need to get you the stuff on that. Speaking of
Auburn fans, we will have the interview with Butch Thompson up hopefully at some point today if you want some baseball talk.
Which is terrific, as Butch Thompson always is. So working on some other stuff in the background for baseball. We're going to hop from here to go to predictions. We will have those coming for you shortly on the channel. For Max Barr and Blake Lovell, thanks for watching our basketball content here at Southeastern 16. God bless you. We will see you again soon.